the very first episode of Weaponized, wherein we vowed to bring forth government-vetted images of what they, not us, what they, the U.S. military and the intelligence community, refer to as UAP.
Just so everybody understands, like, what is the Mosul Orb? And I know it's real basic for some of our listeners, but I think it's important. You know, this was a still image from a video. George and I reported that. You're about to learn what it takes to make another historic move, which is to obtain footage from the United States government through litigation and years of dogged, tenacious, effort.
A video that the UAP Register obtained through FOIA litigation, which is Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, essentially.
This is Weaponized. I'm George Knapp, boiling here in the Mojave. Jeremy Corbell, my friend and colleague. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. Today we travel back through the mists of time to a bygone era known officially as the days of yore. It was a simpler time, kinder, gentler. No, it wasn't. It was just as messed up as it is today, maybe even a little less miserable. I am referring, of course, to the very first episode of Weaponized, wherein we vowed to bring forth government-vetted images of what they, not us, what they, the U.S. military and the intelligence community, refer to as UAP. As we said at the time, the material is hard to acquire. We do our best to confirm the stuff really does come from government servers, and to the best of their abilities, agencies and experts at those agencies do consider the images that we would come to release over many months as genuine unknowns. In other words, in their opinion, UAPs, not ours, not our opinion. The very first image we uncorked in that very first episode of Weaponized was something called the Mosul Orb. It is a freeze frame taken from a brief video recorded on a spy platform, an intelligence platform. There is a new development, by the way, a new wrinkle, new material as of today. Jeremy, why was that image worth releasing in the first place?
Yeah, so it's really interesting that we launched Weaponized literally 6 months after Arrow was put into place. Part of that was because we just wanted to have fun together and be able to report unhindered in any way on visual assets and things that we have acquired. But really, it was also a protective place in my mind, which is that if there's going to be a disinformation campaign, we're going to put out information and see if they'll do the right thing. So why it's important is, so 6 months after Arrow begins, we launch Weaponized. That was in January 23rd, 2023. So our first episode, we tell what Weaponized is going to be, but we offer for the first time ever, and it was and remains the first time ever, is U.S. military filmed UAP designated by our military from an active combat zone. And that was the difference. It was from an active combat zone. That's what we call the Mosul Orb. So we told everybody in the first episode that the Mosul Orb was filmed with full motion video. We had explained to people what that means, why it's in color. It was filmed 16th of April, 2016, over Mosul, Iraq. And the problem was, or not the problem, but it protect sources, especially if they don't protect themselves, is what you've always taught me, George. We could release a still image, but I think it was more risky to go farther than that. So a lot of people didn't believe us. And if you remember, George, we challenged Arrow to do the right thing and to release the video to the public. They didn't. Instead, they released something that looked similar. And this is kind of the sleight of hand thing that they do a lot of the time. So they never released it to the American public. And I never thought the American public was ever going to be able to see it. It took a real act of dedication and courage to kind of get that out. But just to summarize this, I hope that people look back at our original reporting, George, because we were accurate and we told people we were, but maybe they were, learning to trust us. But if you look now at what we're going to learn today, you're going to see that we were 100% accurate and that this was not some lens flare. This was not some pothole in the street. This was not some raindrop on the lens of a CIA spy plane retrofitted camera. I mean, are you kidding me? But you still have to deal with that stuff unless you can back it up. And I think today because of the tenacity of a good friend of ours and an excellent investigative journalist. You're about to learn what it takes to make another historic move, which is to obtain footage from the United States government through litigation and years of dogged, tenacious, effort to get that. So I'd love, George, let's introduce a friend of ours.
Yeah, I would just say this before we bring him in. What we're going to see is pretty cool today. The public has not seen it. It's very interesting. I remember the debunker people were pissed at us because we weren't releasing the 4-second video because they said that would allow us to for sure debunk it. We could definitely have enough info to debunk it. Well, you're about to get it. I suspect they will still do the same thing they've been doing. It's a raindrop on the lens. It's a pothole in the road in Mosul. All kinds of really wacky theories that really don't hold up, as we're about to see. But this guy, who's been our guest and been our friend, he helped us before. We both had an interest in UFO intrusions at the Pantex facility, and he dug in and got some really good information. Dustin Slaughter runs something called the UAP Register. It's not flashy. It's just rock solid investigative journalism. He comes up with great stories, and he's really picked up a doozy today because this video by itself that we're about to see is important, but man, the implications of what Dustin has done is so much bigger for this topic. Would you agree, Jeremy?
Yeah, big time. As you and I have always said, is that no one piece of footage is ever going to do it, but the collective weight is a preposterous preponderance of evidence. So even this is bigger than a video. And we'll hear about that. We're about to talk about that. Why this is so big, why this is so important. So really excited because I think now, if people look at the history, they're going to trust our reporting because you know what? If you've been right before and you're consistent and you actually are trustworthy, then you're worthy of trust. So let's bring in a friend. I'll give you a little quick background in that Dustin Slaughter, you've seen him on UFO Revolution because during that filming on the Tubi show that they made, I kind of like call an emergency call on friends, like, what do we do? What do we do? So he's been on Weaponized when he also obtained some images from our Department of Energy, which was wild, of an incursion over Pantex. But when I was calling him in the show, we were working more on whistleblowers and what they've said to Arrow, but Arrow doesn't report on. But Dustin will go in and try to get that information to validate the claims of the whistleblowers because Arrow didn't even try. They literally told one of the witnesses, oh, you should go to the National Archives. There's some great stuff there, basically blowing them off. Dustin didn't take that. He went for it with specifics. Now, it might take years to get, but look at that patience, how it pays off. So Dustin Slaughter, thank you so much for joining us. I am excited to hear what happened. You sent me a video. You were asking, is this what I think it is, essentially? And I'm like, holy shit, close your phone. Don't say anything. Don't tell anybody. Just wait. That is the video. Tell me what happened in your own words. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's good to be back on, guys. Thanks for having me. So essentially what we have here is a video that the UAP Register obtained through FOIA litigation, which is Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, essentially. I originally filed the original FOIA was filed in 2023, and then the lawsuit after stonewalling by the Air Force and the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. After that stonewalling, I filed a lawsuit in 2024 with a couple of great attorneys that I work with. So,
do they do pro bono for you? Is this something they're interested in?
As a matter of fact, they do have a pretty open mind when it comes to this stuff. But the added benefit is that they've been doing FOIA litigation for many, many years. So I'm in very good hands. I do have to, there are some incidental costs that I have to pay, but essentially they are doing it pro bono.
So when was the hearing? Did they have an actual hearing on it and then judge issues a ruling, or what was it?
No, with FOIA litigation, you almost never have a hearing. It's basically a lot of back and forth between, the judge will say, okay, the agency has to, either produce or say that they don't have these records by a certain date, and then various dates keep going back and forth, and it's a very drawn out process. So,
So what was the date when you found out you're going to get it, and when did it actually arrive?
it kind of arrived out of the blue. My attorney and I got an email from the Justice Department lawyer who is representing the Air Force in the case. And he just sort of attached this video and sent it to us. And he goes, "Oh, by the way, here's this video that they found through, and here it is." And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that at all." So, all right.
So do your lawyers think this is sort of a precedent that would allow other like-minded researchers to gain access using the same process that you did?
Yes, and I do as well. And here's why: because the Freedom of Information Act is fundamentally broken, unfortunately. And it's a very, very common practice among journalists in other areas of news gathering, not just UAT obviously, but other areas of news gathering where you have to take the government to court and you have to pry it out of their hands, unfortunately. So,
Jeremy.
Yeah, so, I want, for the benefit of our audience, I have some big feelings and opinions on, Dustin, what you've achieved and why it sets precedent, and why, if we get thousands of Dustin Slaughters, or if we get people that can more specifically ask for things, which I'm very happy to help with, that we're going to flood the zone and they're going to have to respond. They've overclassified things after George's and my reporting. They decided all UAP on some level they're going to, clamp down on. But if we had people knowing that it works, and even, everybody's asking for money in the UFO world for like lawyers and shit. They got all these like disclosure fund stuff. Really cool. Glad they do it. But man, this would be great money spent. And I bet there's a lot of lawyers that would do it for free. So if we had, let's say, 1,000 people doing what you're doing, but even more specifically, that would be something I would be interested in helping to promote, because we would get a lot of, traction. But I want to remind and really take people back, Dustin, just so everybody understands, like, what is the Mosul Orb? And I know it's real basic for some of our listeners, but I think it's important. This was a still image from a video. George and I reported that, and we were not able to go any further than that. But the words that we gave, we were able. And if people paid attention, our military not only dubbed this a UAP, and it looks like a silver spear. By the way, nothing to do with what I believe to be a complete nonsense story in the media right now about those other spheres that are going on, where they find them.
Ooga.
Yeah, all that. I'm going to say horse shit because of my position, but everybody can have a different opinion than mine. You're probably right. But anyway, this is totally different. This is a CIA plane that is flying over a terrorist compound. They were targeting the compound, and then they had a passive capture. You see it in color because it's full motion video, which is a really cool layered system of optics on a really cool camera system. We reported camera system. We reported not only that it was a CIA asset plane that was doing it, George, but we also, and I think people really miss this, because why would they care? The initial analysis hub is something that we talked about. And why is that important? It's important because when Dustin called me, he says, "I thought you said Mosul Orb was in Mosul, but I got this from Southern Command." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I think I know what's going on." In our reporting, George, we told people the flow of acquisition and analysis, and we describe it perfectly I went back and looked at our original reporting. I'm like, woo, we got that one right. And then it gets shared to other systems and shared and analyzed, and certain UAP study groups within government and in intelligence agencies will pull from it. This video is unresolved. It is currently, as of this morning, I can report, designated UAP by our government. And that's not only the fact that Dustin got it under that search term, but I'm telling you, today, it is still designated UAP, meaning they cannot describe or explain the apparent propulsion capability without dissent, what it was even doing there. And George, now that we have the video, I think that you call them online detectives will be able to tell us, what size is it? I am so interested to figure out what it says. I know it's not real close to the lens of the camera because I have talked and researched years ago with the people that actually work with these camera systems and fabricate, meaning make them. But I want to see what the detectives think. So that's what the Mosul Orb is. It was the first, and that's so cool because it was a combat zone, but it is still and relevant today. And even your pal, George, on May 1st, 2020, there was a classified briefing that was generated about UAP through the Office of Naval Intelligence. And your friend included this as one of the examples on the JWIX and SIPRNet and Interlink systems as UAP. So maybe Jay can talk more openly about it now that Dustin was able to achieve a public release of the video.
The following is the video of the Mosul Orb.
It's pretty cool. I would be interested if those online detectives can tell us if both the orb and the spy plane are moving, or if the spy plane is going past the orb and it's stationary. Maybe somebody can figure that out who knows more about this stuff than I do, but or either of us. Do either of you have an input on that?
Yeah, from our original investigations, I was going through our notes, and there's a lot of opinions on it within the intelligence community, but they have the actual numbers that are like moving in the video, and that is not public yet. Because Dustin, what they did, and they always do this, is they scrubbed all of the pertinent data in the video. So it's going to be difficult because you can look at the image we released, George, because we released an image with all the numeric information, but because you don't see it moving, it's very difficult. However, because it's only a 4-second video, that still image from the middle of that video with the numeric values, yeah, I think people are going to be able to figure out maybe relative size, but at least it's because it's short, right? It's not like a 20-minute video where you got a screen capture of all the numbers, but the government always does that. They somehow scrub that data, which is not sensitive, other than maybe the location. That was a big debate before we released it. So I think we're going to have some success. But George, I think more importantly, more than anything, and Dustin too, and Dustin, thank you. Thank you for being tenacious. I never even thought you would ever get anything from this. And I'm an optimist. And this is just the first thing. You're still in litigation, meaning you could get a treasure trove. Don't go after the guy, Men in Black, but he could get a treasure trove of information. So last thing about it, I think that's important, George, is, this is kind of like an icon of what can happen. If journalists go use American law, they fight for it. There's no reason the public shouldn't have seen this. It was sleight of hand that Dr. Kirkpatrick released something that looked like Mosul Orb, but wasn't Mosul Orb. And they always do that, George. When we release stuff, they release stuff that looks like it, but isn't. And that is sleight of hand. The new, kind of ownership and directorship of Arrow, I hear they're nice guys, but it's like somebody telling they love you. Okay, action is key here. So let's see if Arrow will be more transparent now that they see the journalists got them by the balls.
Dustin, did you request other specific videos?
So this was not, this was not this is kind of like a blanket request for videos. I wasn't going after anything specific. And so as of right now, the litigation does remain open, and we are attempting to pry other videos loose.
So, Jeremy, I wonder if that is the way to go, is to target a specific image or video in FOIA requests that are going to go to court, as opposed to how Dustin got this with a larger open kind of request.
So I have a battle plan, and people should put on their UFO battle helmets because I know exactly what to do here. And yes, and I know it's legal for me to do, which is identify very specific file names on very specific types of servers. And so Dustin and I will be working together. But I think that the larger, I think you might agree, Dustin, now that you've set legal precedent, I think if we're more targeted and we get a lot of people who can do proper FOIA requests, no one's been as successful as you with FOIA requests. Nobody. You're the first in history to get something like this, Dustin. But I think it can be repeated by people who are actually interested in the truth, and it's going to be public. And so I think that we have a battle plan, George. I think that we're going to get an army of people to work on this as well as lawyers. And I don't think it's going to require a new foundation to fund for it. I think people are going to give their time.
I recall that our colleague Chris Sharp wrote a piece in the Daily Mail when the image was first released, and it was kind of cool because he had a couple of interesting things in there that we also reported. One saying that this video was sent to Joint Base Langley in Virginia, where imagery and electronic signals intelligence experts studied it for the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM. Kind of ironic that it went to Langley because, a few years later, Langley itself was swarmed with unknowns for 17 nights in a row, some described as drones, but they were definitely unidentified. Also, Chris Sharp had reported, despite being analyzed and studied by experts for years, the incident remains unexplained, as you noted a couple of minutes ago, Jeremy. And then Daily Mail revealed that case formed part of the ODNI, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, preliminary assessment of UFOs, the report that came out in May of 2021, in which you'll recall they analyzed 144 cases and found an explanation for only one of them. And of course, that was a golden era back before Sean Kirkpatrick came in, hijacked the whole thing. Dustin, are you encouraged that you're going to get more goodies, and are you writing about it in the UAP Register?
I am cautiously optimistic. We'll have to see. It's definitely been an uphill battle. But I do also want to point out, going back to what you guys just talked about regarding Langley and how they analyzed this video, correct?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
I can tell you exactly what happened when we get there, but go.
But it's interesting because this lawsuit, or this FOIA request, originally targeted the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, which was mandated by Congress early on during this sea change in congressional interest in the topic. And NASIC, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, was mandated by Congress along with Arrow's predecessor, to analyze UAP videos, which means that not only did this video go through Langley, it also went through NASIC. And NASIC, I dare say, has much more sophisticated analysis abilities or capabilities than pretty much any other entity in the United States. So,
and this is based at Wright-Patterson?
That's correct. Storied Wright-Patterson. Yeah.
I think I have a memory or two of UFO related material related to Wright-Patterson, so that's a good place for it.
Mm-hmm,
that's great.
Indeed.
George and I have, if people have listened to Weaponized, we have identified a bottleneck of information where things go into the black hole. We've been vocal and verbal about it. That's why we originally reported that flow of information, using CENTCOM as an example, because not everything even makes it to CENTCOM and Central Command. So if people were listening, they're going to understand that bottleneck and how things disappear. And people like Jay Stratton, it would be good when he was in official role to know where information goes away before it gets to them. And I think, Dustin, you're over the target, as our friend Representative Burchett would say, with NASIC. So let's get specific. We'll work together. We will spread that information out to others so they can also fight for the same stuff. So we flood the zone. And I believe that we're going to be very successful given a year, 2 years.
I hope people will. I look forward to reading your story, whatever you write this week, Dustin. At Dustin Slaughter on X, you can follow him. The UAP Registers on Substack.com. Anywhere else people should look for your stuff?
No, that should do it.
Great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great job. And the moment that people are seeing this on Weaponized, Dustin has published just a minute before his full write-up of his process. So everybody should go over there and learn how to do this moving forward. So if you go to Dustin's spot, right when you saw the video here, 1 minute before, he's published the video, everything that you're seeing here with full description. Go to Dustin's thing, follow him. Thanks so much, Dustin.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Teamwork.
Keep us in the loop. Thanks.
Will do. You too. Thanks.
I like Dustin. He's not out there getting in loud fights and boasting about this or telling everybody else what to think. He just keeps his eye on the ball. He does the hard work and produces results. We need more people like that. Less loud voices.
Yeah, he does very clean reporting, and that's why if you look at our first Weaponized report on the Mosul Orb, it's just the facts, man. It's just the facts, and that is reporting. Now, we can always give opinions and whatnot, but Dustin is very much like that. And so he is somebody that has made an achievement that should set an example for others. And it's so cool to have other journalists that are really good at their job that we get to work with, George.
So coming up,
Yeah.
it's the summertime. My wife has reminded me I haven't had a vacation in several years. I'm not actually going to take a vacation. I just want to huddle at home and turn off the phone and ignore email for a while, for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to take some time off. Please don't think you fired me or I'm dead or something like that. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. When we come back, man, there's some really good stuff coming. Really good stuff.
Yeah, we've made a decision. You saw a result of that decision when you saw the Air Force designated UAP disc navigating through clouds. So George and I made a decision to do our best, to put our best work out there. And we've consulted with legal scholars and federal lawyers. And, we're going to do it. We're going to do the best we can for everybody that is interested in knowing the truth, whatever it is about this topic. Again, no one video or no one thing or no one document, no one interview. That's not the story. But George, I do know too that we have promised that we're going to bring whistleblowers forward. And I talk about firsthand, and I defined what firsthand was online so everybody knew. Now, I do have hope, George, while you're kind of on vacation, right? Although I'm going to try to pull you into a couple of things that month. But we're going to be documenting more so that Congress can do the right thing and put forward who the public wants to hear from. I am fighting that battle. There's not like resistance, it's logistics. But vetting logistics, when your own government vets whistleblowers, it's easier. But I really believe we're going to get there. I'm hoping before like David Grush leaves his position where he's consulting with government. And I do believe we're going to get there. So I'm optimistic, George. I'm not always right, but I'm always optimistic. But I just think that come hell or high water, we're going to hear from direct first-hand whistleblowers. And if Congress doesn't do it, you'll hear from them first here on Weaponized.
I know exactly one of those people you're talking about that we've talked to for a couple of years, and boy, has he got a great story to tell.
Oh, we've recorded already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's multiple, and you know that, but
Yeah.
nice to be coy. All right.
All right. Later.
See you soon.